September 30th, 1972. The crowd in Pittsburgh roared as the ball cracked off the wooden bat. Roberto Clemente raced down the dirt path to first base. He stood tall as the umpire called him safe. That smooth swing brought hit number 3,000 of his career. Only 10 men in baseball history had ever reached that grand mark. He smiled, lifted his helmet, and waved to the screaming fans. It was a giant moment of glory for a giant man. Yet deep inside, the legendary star carried a heavy burden. Roberto Clemente was far more than a ball player hitting pitches in a park. He was the pride of Puerto Rico. Every time he stepped onto the grass for the Pittsburgh Pirates, he felt the eyes of his home island watching him. He fought for respect every single day of his life. He wanted the world to see that a Latino man could be the greatest on the field. Off the field, his life was built on helping others. When the lights went dark and the crowds went home, Roberto walked among simple people. He gave his own money to kids who lacked shoes. He bought food for families who had no bread on their tables. He did not care about shiny gold trophies or fat paychecks. His heart was soft for anyone who was suffering in silence. Then, a sudden nightmare hit the earth on December 23, 1972. A giant earthquake shook the country of Nicaragua. Buildings fell down in seconds. Whole streets turned into piles of dust and broken rocks. Thousands of poor people died in the dark. Thousands more were hurt, trapped, and left with no place to hide. The quiet city of Managua became a place of total ruin and loud cries. Word of the big disaster reached Puerto Rico fast. News reports spoke of small children crying in the cold mud with no blankets. Food was gone, clean water was gone, sickness was spreading like fire through the dark ruins. People were dying not just from the falling walls, but from deep hunger and dirty water. The sad story broke the hearts of everyone who listened. Roberto Clemente could not sleep when he heard the news. He paced back and forth in his home, looking out at the night sky. He felt the pain of those starving families inside his own chest. He knew he could not just sit in a soft chair and send good wishes. He had to stand up and do something real. The star decided to drop everything and act right away. He turned his home city into a massive rescue center. Day and night, Roberto stood under the hot sun loading heavy boxes. He called his friends, rich leaders, and everyday fans. He asked for boxes of food, warm clothes, clean water, and boxes of medicine. He worked until his arms hurt and his back burned with pain. He did not rest for even one single hour. Because of his famous name, humanitarian relief came pouring in from all over the island. Thousands of bags of rice, medicine boxes, and warm blankets filled huge warehouses. The famous man from the Pittsburgh Pirates had united his people for a great cause. He showed that true strength was not about hitting balls over fences. It was about standing up for those who were too weak to stand on their own. Then bad news arrived from Nicaragua. Cold, mean men in government uniforms were stealing the relief boxes at the airport. Greedy soldiers took the food for themselves and sold the medicine for gold coins. The starving children were getting nothing at all. The help was sitting in locked rooms while poor families died on the streets outside. The brave hitter grew hot with anger. Roberto Clemente made a bold, dangerous choice. He declared that he would fly to Nicaragua himself. He believed that if he was on the plane, the bad soldiers would not dare to steal the supplies. He would look those corrupt men straight in the eyes and hand out every piece of bread with his own 2 hands. No danger would stop him from doing what was right. His friends told him to wait and stay safe. They warned him that the trip was dangerous and the skies were full of bad weather. But Roberto refused to listen to fear. His strong spirit was fixed on his goal. He believed that a man who has the power to help others must act, no matter what the cost might be. His mind was set, and his decision was final. It was New Year's Eve, 1972. Families across the world were singing, eating good food, and ringing in the new year with joy. But Roberto was at the dark airfield in Puerto Rico, sweating under cold rain. He was helping load a big 4-engine plane named the DC-4. The air was thick and heavy, but he kept working hard without stopping to rest. The dark sky hung low over the quiet runway. Shadows stretched long across the wet asphalt as the old plane sat under the faint airfield lights. The quiet night felt cold and tense. Everyone near the landing strip could feel that something heavy was about to happen. The clock kept ticking closer and closer to midnight as the last boxes were packed inside. The plane was in terrible shape. It was an old wooden and metal machine that had failed tests before. The engines were rusty and leaking dark oil. The owner of the plane was a bad man who did not care about safety rules. Mechanics had warned that the plane was unfit to take off, but nobody stopped the flight from moving forward into the dark. To make matters worse, the plane was packed way past its limit. Thousands of extra pounds of heavy food and heavy medicine boxes were crammed inside the small cabin. The plane was far too heavy to fly safely in the night sky. The weight pressed down on the old wheels, but Roberto wanted to save every single life he could. As he walked toward the door of the plane, a friend stopped him and begged him not to board, but Roberto just shook his head and smiled softly. His love for suffering people was far bigger than his fear of dying. He knew that thousands of hungry kids were waiting for that food. He climbed up the cold metal stairs and stepped inside the dark cabin. His wife and friends stood at the edge of the dark field, watching with heavy hearts. A strange feeling of dread filled the cold night air. Deep down, everyone felt a sad knot in their stomachs as the metal doors slammed shut. They waved their hands as the plane rolled slowly down the dim runway, praying that the great hero would return home safe and sound. The 4 big engines sputtered and roared with a loud, rough noise. Black smoke shot out from the back of the wings into the night wind. The heavy plane rolled faster and faster down the wet strip. With a hard fight against gravity, the wheels left the ground. The plane lifted up into the black sky, rising slowly over the dark waves of the ocean. Then, just minutes after takeoff, disaster struck the sky. Loud pops echoed through the clouds as the engines began to fail one by one. Fire sparkled along the wings in the dark night. The pilot tried hard to turn the heavy machine back toward the land, but the plane lost power completely. It tipped sideways and fell fast out of the sky toward the cold water below. The heavy plane crashed into the dark Atlantic Ocean with a loud, terrible boom. The hard hit broke the metal body into small pieces upon the waves. Cold salt water rushed into the cabin, swallowing the boxes, the crew, and the great ball player in a fraction of a second. The ocean swallowed everything, leaving only quiet waves rolling in the pitch-black night. The tragic news shocked the world early the next morning. People woke up on New Year's Day to hear that their ultimate hero was gone. In Puerto Rico, music stopped and whole towns wept in the streets. In Pittsburgh, fans stood outside the empty baseball stadium in silence, holding hands and crying. A black veil of deep sadness covered the entire world of sports. Rescue ships and Navy divers rushed out to the crash site in the ocean. For days and weeks, boats circled the blue waters under the hot sun. Divers went down into the deep, dark sea, searching through the broken metal wreckage on the ocean floor. Millions of people watched their television sets, hoping and praying for a miraculous rescue story that would save their star. They found small pieces of the broken plane floating in the blue sea. They found empty boxes and torn bags of rice, but they never found Roberto Clemente. The deep ocean kept the great body of the hitter forever. He was gone at 38 years old, leaving behind a heartbroken world that would never be the same without his bright light. The sudden loss shook Major League Baseball to its very core. The rules were changed to put him into the Hall of Fame right away without waiting 5 years. But no award could replace the warm heart that had stopped
beating. He had given his own life to bring food to poor strangers, proving that his ultimate duty was far higher than playing a game. His incredible transformation from a simple baseball star into a humanitarian martyr left an immortal mark on human history. He showed the world that a true champion is measured by how much he gives away, not by how many hits he collects. His final choice on that dark New Year's Eve turned a great player into an eternal symbol of unselfish love and endless courage. Today, his legacy outweighs all his gold gloves and championship rings. Every year, baseball gives an award in his name to the player who helps the community most. But the true memory of Roberto Clemente lives in the hearts of everyday people who keep his spirit alive. The hero who flew into the dark night to save others will be remembered forever.